citizen petition for academic excellence. So please refer to the complete motion. But I move favorable action on warrant Article 44, a citizen's petition that the town advises the Wellesley School Committee and the superintendent of Wellesley Public Schools that academic excellence shall take priority over all other programs, policies, and initiatives, and will take actions in that regard as they are set forth in the warrant and the motion. Can I have a second? I see Doug.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So a couple of points here. First of all, we have three sets of information that came in since our discussion. One was by the proponent, Mr. Franco, came in right after our meeting on the 9th, I believe, in response to some of our questions and discussion. Then we got a presentation from the Wellesley Public Schools a few days after that, I believe. And then on March 1, we received another document from Mr. Franco, I believe. So those three are with us. And again, I'm not sure if Mr. Franco is here or not, but again, the school committee people are, if there are specific questions about that information through me that you wish to ask. The other thing I would ask is that we touched on some of the quality issues before, so let's try to stay with fresh ground in our discussion here. So having said all that, it looks like there's no discussion at all, right? So going once, Madison.
Sorry, I don't mean to slow things down, but it is obviously related to our prior discussion. And while I don't support this article, because I think in our prior dialogue, I think it would be very hard to implement. I'm not sure how it would really work. And I don't know that, we need another committee that's reporting into the school board. I think the parents can, as they're doing right now, can voice their challenges and find ways to communicate that to our school board. But I just want to make the statement that there's obviously concern out there in the segment of the parent population about what's going on in the schools. And I'm not here to make a statement one way or another against it, but I would just encourage the town to find some way to listen. And it's not my job to say how they do this or how they execute it, but whether or not it's some subcommittee on the school board that decides to try and hear this group of parents and families out, and as a result, find a way to try and address the concerns that are raised. So despite my feeling that this article is not the way to go, and I'm going to vote against it, I still encourage the town to listen and to find a way, because it's a great town, and obviously there's a community here that wants to be heard and has some real issues.
Thank you, Madison. Patty.
Thanks, Neil. I am also not in support of this article. Madison, I think you touched on a couple things. I do want to make sure that the school committee and the school department does understand that clearly there are people that don't feel heard. I do think that coming out of COVID, I think a lot of people feel very separated, even if they've been together as a group. And I think the school department has been focused on children and teachers and support within. And I think and I know that they have communicated to parents all the way through. I've seen the communications. But I think it's just spilling out a bit further, that people just feel a little separated, even though we can now finally be a little bit more together. I think they're feeling. So I think if you could take that into consideration and somehow make people, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I feel like I'm voting against this article, but I want people to be aware that I think we should have new conversation.
Thank you, Patty. Jeff.
We've discussed at length the issues with this article. And if Neil Glick had won, I would feel there would be a voice on the school committee that would reflect the voice of the disenchanted in the community. Having said that, he lost, and therefore I'm actually going to vote to support it.
I don't
And
think
there-
that statement is a very polite statement for the school committee members that are currently on the school committee and for the school department employees and team. I call
just
you
explaining my
back,
rationale,
Jeff,
Patty.
on that. That's rude.
Well, I'm explaining my rationale. So the net result is I'm going to support it. And I would encourage the school committee and the school department to make it work.
All right, again, I've mentioned this before. Let's try to stay as objective and talk about the issue as possible. And let's see, who's next? Corinne.
Thank you, Neil. I do not support this article. And I agree with what Madison and Patty said, that the parents, I feel, are coming off of the pandemic. They've had to be home with their children. They've had to help them, having had to help my own grandchildren, and not being very good with Chromebooks and stuff. It was a real education for me as well during the pandemic. And I think the parents want to be heard. And I understand they want excellence and they want more AP courses and better scores and what have you. And I think that's part of the education that a child should get. But I also feel that they should be able to, when they graduate, they should be, it's more than book learning that you get in school. I'm not saying reading, writing, and arithmetic aren't important. They definitely are. I'm just saying that I think we don't really need another committee to advise the school committee and the superintendent, both of which I think are doing a good job, a stellar job probably. And I just think maybe, as Madison did suggest, a subcommittee on the school committee to meet with these parents and liaison with them and find out what they really want. I guess, well, anyway, I don't support the article. And those are my reasons, because I think the parents are well-intentioned, and I think the school is doing everything it possibly can to give our students, our younger citizens in Wellesley, a good education. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Doug.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, I'm in support of this article because, first off, the number of emails and call-ins that we've had in support of this from parents is really incredible. I see this committee as a way of getting the communications going more effectively between the parents and the school board. And to try to then get on a level plane so that we can figure out what is really going on here. If we need to bring a third party in to do an evaluation, okay, that's something that can be agreed upon. But first, ought to just try to get a good level playing field so that the communications lines start to open up, which clearly, based on all of these emails that we're getting and phone calls, call-in, citizen speak, isn't happening. You can dispute the numbers all you want, and I'm sure you know that the numbers work however you want them to work. But the fact of the matter is that there are a fair number of parents, and it's not, I don't believe it's a small number, who are unhappy and they don't feel that they're being heard. And I don't know how else to get this through. I mean, it's not by taking money away. That's why I didn't vote against the budget. But people need to start listening. The school committee needs to listen to these parents.
Okay, Doug, again, let's.
Okay, all right,
move on,
fine.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Jen.
I'll try to be briefer this time. Thank you for being with me. I would say that I would think there is no way in the world that the school committee and the district are not hearing what is going on in the town. In fact, I think they're hearing a lot. And I think unfortunately it's gotten extremely vitriolic and threatening. And I think we all want what is best for the children. So I do think a message has been sent by some very concerned citizens in town that they're concerned. I would imagine that we can continue to ask questions that we want from the district. But when I hear about only focusing on academic excellence, that is scary to me. I don't want to go back to 30 math problems a night where I don't understand how to do them. My kids can do math quicker than me because they do the new math. The new math apparently works. I don't want to go to history books that don't include people of color other than Rosa Parks. So my daughter thinks, you know, she's the only Black person in Wellesley. I don't want students with dyslexia like my husband who had to sit for 5, 7, 10 years because they didn't interact with kids the way that we do now with our kids. Before I moved to Wellesley, and I'm going to be careful here, I say this because I didn't live here, but I understand there was extreme stress with children at the high school ending in suicide. I don't want kids to be having this level of pressure based upon, to me, what sounds like test scores. I do think the schools are hearing what everyone is saying, and I'm sure that they want to move forward with the entire community. They became educators for a reason. Educators want to educate. So I'm sure this message has been heard. And I think we can all work together to get to the next place. I'd like to think that maybe COVID has just really rocked everyone's world and we can take down the temperature and we can all move forward together because the kids are hearing us. The kids are hearing what's going on and they know, kids know so much. We have to take down the temperature for the kids and we can all move forward together, continuing to ask questions. And I just want to say we do have a committee that works overseeing the district. It is the school committee. This committee exists. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Sean, I think. Oh, let me start. Mr. Franco, I don't see you on the screen, but I see that you have a hand up. We will call on you if we have any specific questions, but otherwise, this is an advisory only discussion. Thank you. So Sean.
Yes, and just to follow up, Jen, appreciate all your comments. And I think it is really important that the school listens to the parents in a structured way. I don't think the additional committee is that I supported to put on top of or next to the school committee, because I do think it's the school committee's job. I encourage the continued, and I expressed this on these calls before, the approach in which the Wellesley school system educates the whole child. And I think that's incredibly important. And a lot of speakers have talked about that and concerns with the entire child's well-being. So I think it's just setting up a structured way to listen to what the concerns are and address them. And also for the parents of taking their children out of the district. There were some comments in some of the letters that that nobody had reached out and spoken to them to figure out why. So I think those would be important points to address going forward, but I'm not supportive of the article as the means to get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Let's see, Wendy, please.
Hi, yes, thanks, Neil. I am absolutely not in support of this article at all on multiple levels. First and foremost, it's the school committee that is communicating with our community. And if they haven't heard this message loud and clear, that's just not the case. That is absolutely just not the case because it has been loud and clear throughout this community. I do not believe that this is the mechanism by which this, quote unquote problem will be solved, which by the way, I don't see the problem. And what is the most stunning piece of why I will vote against this is that first and foremost, it's calling into this academic excellence piece right here. That looking at AP classes, looking at higher level classes, this is not what this is about. If that is the crux of what this committee is going to be about, I will stand on a stack of whatever books you want me to and say that this is about whole child, and to go in and say that we need to be focusing on more rigor and more digging in on what test scores are going to do, when, by the way, folks, long after we get out of this, pandemic, and I think honestly, a lot of why this groundswell is happening is sheer frustration and our inability to communicate effectively in these moments. And I would even say, not for just communications within our venue right now, but obviously just the general way of our country has really permeated into the fabric of our community. And it's been very disheartening to me to see this, and particularly about what we value most in our community, and that is our kids' education. So I absolutely will not be supporting this article. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Tom.
Thanks, Neil. So there's a lot of good points here. Everybody's clearly passionate about it. I feel like, and this was said last time we discussed this, that this is a black and white issue, and it's not. It's really an issue where academic excellence and teaching the whole student, focusing on the other things, the social aspects of what an education entails, are not mutually exclusive. I said this before. So I don't know why people keep going to this. And for me, I don't see more oversight as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing. For me, when somebody says we don't need oversight, it means you're trying to hide something. And one of the former speakers, or one of the speakers before me, said, they're hearing us, they're hearing us. Well, clearly they're not, because based on all the emails we're getting from parents, me being one, having 2 kids in the high school, they're not hearing our kids, they're not hearing us. At least they're not saying they are. So maybe they're hearing us, but they're not responding. And I'm not going to talk about specific people, but I do feel like there needs to be some sort of additional oversight that's going to help with the conversation. I mean, you keep talking about, oh, we need to get back to the conversation. Well, it seems like the people who are in charge are the ones who aren't listening. That's the problem. So I don't feel like, sorry, Neil, but I don't feel like having another level of accountability is necessarily a bad thing. And it should be equitable across all the different people who are on this board, if it were to come to fruition. So I just feel like doing this would be a good thing for the community. It would make the parents feel better about what their kids are learning in school, and it would possibly alleviate some of the pressure that the board and the administration is feeling, because they'd feel like there's an open channel there. Right now, it doesn't feel like there's an open channel. So that's why I would support this.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Neil.
Susan.
Thank you. I think I clearly agree that the schools need to be listening to the parents, and that there needs to be, and nobody's going to argue that we always want to include academic excellence. I think the issue that I have with this particular article, especially, is that it says that would be the only priority for the schools. And I really feel that the public schools are there to educate all kids. And some kids, if you say that and create kind of this real intense pressure cooker kind of environment where that's the only thing that matters, you're going to have some kids. I know, at least with my own kids, some of my kids love competition. It brings out the best of them, and some of my kids shut down. And I think you're going to have kids that are going to be depressed, stressed out, self-harming, eating disorder. I mean, there's so many things that happen to these kids that when they find themselves in an atmosphere like that, that I really feel like it's important to remember that not every kid does well in that sort of situation, and our public schools are there to meet the needs of all the kids. And that's, I think, my biggest problem with the way this article is written. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Jake, and then Al.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Well, I'm going to start off by saying, I don't find the level of discourse here at all disconcerting or threatening. I think it's a great thing. It really is. very important for all of us to be talking about this. And I haven't heard anything that, well, there's been strong opinions and emotions and disagreements. You know, that's part of the process of a democracy. And I think, you know, we need to accept that and not try to, you know, use that as a way to, you know, quiet voices. That said, I'm not in support of this this warrant article. You know, I think there's a message being sent here that I am in support of, and I do hope the message will be received. And I think if it's not received at some point, a warrant article like this would get my support. But I am, you know, a bit of a purist when it comes to governance. I don't like to see, you know, policy issues encoded into the bylaws, you know, to start. I don't like to see, I think the way that this is drafted is a bit too prescriptive, you know, on a number of fronts, including, you know, explicit, you know, rankings within the U.S. News and World Report. I don't think that should be a goal per se. So I, you know, both in terms of, you know, how it's drafted, and you know, the type of bylaw it is, I am not in support. I do, however, hope, as I said, that and a lot of folks have said, that the message here is received, and you know, and action is taken to be responsive. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Jake. Al, please. Oh, you're on mute.
My apologies. I'm kind of torn again. I see some of us in this discussion saying there is a problem. Some of us denying there is a problem. I believe the solution is to find out if there is a problem, is to have an independent consultant to advise us, all of us members of the town, to resolve the situation on academic excellence, which is what we believe all of us want. At the same time, we want the whole education of the body and soul of our kids. I completely agree with that. The third point that I wanted to make is the fact that this article creates an ambiance of them and us, one committee for excellence and the rest of the school committee isn't. That's not the case. I think we need to be together on this as a town. Why? We're all taxpayers. We're all paying for this. So to me, it's essential that it be together, not a split operation. So from that point of view of setting up a separate organization who's going to oversee this, I do not agree with. That is not the democratic way. We need to do this as as Americans, believing that we can make something happen. If there is a problem, let this independent consultant tell us there is a problem. If there isn't one, there isn't one. And we have to accept then the opinions of this nationally reputable consulting firm. That's how I see this. Right now, I see the split, and I do not like what I see. So, but from our organizational point of view, I have to vote no. From the objective of having educational excellence, absolutely, I want that. That's what allowed me to survive what I survived in my own career and all the things that I was able to do, and the travel and going to places like Siberia, like I did some years ago. So I really believe in academic excellence. I also believe that we need to educate the whole body and soul of our students. Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to express my thought.
Al, as always, thank you for your thoughts. All right, I didn't go around the table on this one, but I do want to make sure, is there anybody else who would like to make a comment, please? Okay. Sean, I will hand it to you.
Okay, we're on to the vote. Jen,
No.
John,
No.
Corinne,
No.
Patty,
No.
Tom,
Yes.
Jake,
No.
Jeff,
Well, I believe it's flawed. I'm going to vote yes.
Doug,
Yes,
Susan,
Oh,
Al,
No,
Wendy,
No.
Pete,
No.
Madison,
No.
and I'm going to vote no. And Alyssa, if you could help me with the tally, please.
It is 11 no and 3 yes.
Thanks,
All right.
Alyssa.
Thanks, Sean. I know we're going to move on to something else, but let me just say something while the school folks are still on. It's just to reiterate, as chair of advisory to the school committee and school folks, concerns about school systems and frustration with school systems have got to be as old, really, as civilization, right? But I want you to know that your efforts are much appreciated. I want to 100% acknowledge your good intent, and particularly thank you for all the time and effort you've put in to inform our discussions tonight. So thank you.